Good evening and welcome back to this week's segment of Dialogue Houston. It's so great to have you join us. As I mentioned before the break, we are very pleased and honored to have join us on this segment of Dialogue Houston our very good friend, Dr. William Flores, who is the president of UHD Downtown. And yes, it is still UHD Downtown and will remain UHD Downtown after that little naming discussion they had. And we're just so happy and proud to have you here. Welcome.
Larry, thank you for having me.
And good to have you back.
My pleasure.
Good to have you back.
Pleasure.
You know, when we talk about UH Downtown and we talk about the diversity of the city, of the university, of the richness of diversity, that only kind of, it's even hard to say that because it doesn't do it justice, because you are, that university, that campus is where the rest of Texas and the United States is going.
You know, it is one of the most diverse campuses in the country. In fact, U.S. News and World Report called it the most diverse university west of the Mississippi.
Wow. And it's something that has developed naturally. I mean, it's really just kind of that, not only the word of mouth, but the great reputation, et cetera. But the students that I've talked with and interacted with, and I've done some teaching there too with Dr. Sanborn with his class, they love it. They can't think of any other place for them to come, to go to get their education. You know,
we're located right downtown. So that makes it convenient for many of the people who work downtown, who get off 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, come right up to the campus, can take courses. Often it's much more convenient, especially if they live outside of the Beltway, to be able to take a course and not have to worry about the traffic till afterwards. And then we get students from all over.
And it is now, of course, you know, just like HCC does and the way you all work together in collaboration and partnership with every other university around here. It is not just getting one into school, into college. It is about graduation and completion now, is it not?
Absolutely. You talked about the my degree counts. And you know, when you're looking at America and its rich diversity, we also have some real problems because the country as a whole is getting older. Well, what that means is that if we're not educating the youth, there is, and especially if we have immigration problems or make it difficult for people to come here that have high technical skills, we're going to have a real shortage. And so it's all the more vital that we get people trained, specifically in high-need fields.
And obviously across the country, the realization of not only getting young people into college, getting them through graduation completion, but the skill set we need to be able to compete and have a complete workforce becomes reality. This My Degree Counts things, obviously, with corporations and CEOs across the country, realizing how important it is and come together to see what they can do to help.
And you know, Houston is really the first city in the country to have not just the mayor involved, which is a great thing, all of the universities, all the community colleges, but also the Greater Houston Partnership, so many of the chambers of commerce throughout the
all
Greater
the players
Houston.
have come together.
Absolutely, because we all realize it's in our common interest to do so. And for UHD, we're particularly working hard because, you know, we reach out not only for the transfer students, for the students coming out of high school, but also for adults coming back.
Right. And the articulation agreements and the kind of collaboration you have with HCC, with all the university, makes it very easy for the students to kind of come together, transfer, et cetera, does it not?
Well, and an example of that is that we got both of our cabinets together, talked about how we can strengthen the transfer agreements. So we did that with HCC.
Right.
We did that also with Lone Star. We did it with San Jacinto. And we'll be having similar meetings with the other community colleges. We want to make it as easy as possible.
As seamless as possible.
Absolutely. So students know that they will lose as few credits as possible and be able to transfer without any problems.
When I had you on the radio show the other day, we talked about the importance, which one of the components that UHD does so well downtown is that it has this kind of crucible, the undergirding and nurturing of each student and helping each student as individual work through what they need to get through to be successful. And I think that's so important.
Well, one of the things that we've done is we made a decision as a university through a strategic planning process to focus on high impact experiences, which means things like undergraduate research, learning community, service learning, engagement, the opportunity to apply what you learn in a hands-on way. And to do it in a way that is really based on the needs and interests of the student. We just got a national recognition, which is fabulous. We, out of several thousand universities, a little over 100 were selected for the President's Honor Roll with distinction.
Oh, wonderful.
For the amount of civic engagement and service learning that our students do. And this is not just that they go paint houses, although there is some of that too, but it's tied into the actual coursework. They learn by doing. And in that process, they're more engaged, they learn better, and they also get opportunities for internships, jobs through that process, and they learn so much.
But that whole service learning, community service piece is so important. I mean, when you're talking about connecting it to their future and understanding this is just what a part of what you do. It is not ancillary, it is not a sidebar to your educational experience, it is part of your educational experience.
And we think UHD is one of the best values in town. You know, we're very affordable, we have excellent faculty, we have staff that are committed to the student success, but then you also see alums everywhere in every industry and city government. And all of them, they're proud to be members.
And when I ran the local chapter of Habitat for Humanity, I had a group of your students come to build a house. But what I thought was more important, not only that you had the students, you had alumni that joined the students that day to help build that house. And so they really felt part of that extended family even after they were gone.
You know, one of the things that we started recently, and it includes alums, is a common book read for entering freshmen. And we had alums participate, as well as elected officials, parents. They were all reading the same book, and so what it did is it engaged the students in that book, but then we also tied it to the freshman courses. So it wasn't just a one read, one experience. It was more, how do we take that? In this case, it was a book about a woman who suffered discrimination, and so that book caused students to really. It's called The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. And it deals with medical research, with discrimination, with hospitalization, with so many different issues.
You know, I also know that the expectations are different, standards are different, the expectation of the employee when they hire the workforce. You've also now changed your admission standards to try to look at, address all of that coming in that make it easier for the product that's coming out.
Absolutely. Our interest here is first of all, to get more students to graduate, and this gets back to our attainment. You know, it's not good enough to just have the students come in the door. We want them to get to that stage and get that diploma in hand. We've looked at the data. You know, UHD was originally established as an open admissions institution, but since that time, community college, particularly HCC, has they have to take a lot of preparation of students. They do work with remedial, but they also do a lot of work that are college prep courses and the lower division required courses. So what we're doing is a joint admission program with HCC and other community colleges. So students that may not make our admission standards, we're going to look anyway, because some of them, it's not just about test scores or GPA. There's other issues that we'll take into consideration. But those students who we feel really would do better at community college, we're not just going to hand them off. We're going to work together to make sure that they succeed at, whether it's HCC, Lone Star, wherever they go, that they'll come back and succeed and graduate.
Is that part of the collaboration and challenge from the high schools into junior college or into HCC or into UH downtown? We have so many students who unfortunately still quote-unquote graduate but can't read and write.
You know, we've noticed that, and this is something that I think, not just in Houston, but as a country as a whole.
Across the country.
We have a lot of students who have made it through, and especially, you know, with all the testing now, they're not getting the skill sets they need. We want to make sure that when they graduate from UHD, they have 21st century skills, that they're going to be able to make contributions to society, whether they go into graduate degrees or whether they start working right away, that they're going to bring the best level of skill sets. And we really have to make sure, and we are trying to work as a state, and we're working with HISD, we're working with HCC. We've got many partners, but this is a citywide effort. We have to do a better job of helping students graduate from high school, graduate prepared for college or for career if they're going to go off and get a career.
I'm sure there has been, but it seems to me that the need for ongoing conversation and dialogue with the ISDs from the college level individuals, yourself and others, about the product and many times that they're sending you. They have to improve their product. When you said that so much emphasis of teaching to the tests and emphasis on the tests and the test scores. And we're really falling down on the basics. We talk about math and science, but it's also the ability when you see those who do, as we said, make it through. And I keep going back to that because I run into so many of those students that they couldn't write a sentence or a paragraph if their life depended on it.
Well, with some of the freshmen that came in, I talked about that common read. One of them told me, actually two of them, they're in the same family, said this was the first book they'd ever read cover to cover. And that's a sad...
Once they got into college.
That's right, and that's a sad statement. I think we are working. We partner very closely with K-12. We've got students through Project Grad working in the high schools, working in the middle schools.
Early college credit and all that. Yeah.
All kinds of different things. And we're seeing in HISD and other school districts greater success with AP testing, with more dual credit. So more students are coming prepared, and I think that's the right direction that we want to move in. Right now, only 28% of all Houstonians have a college degree.
28%?
28%. So what we're really trying to do is push that number. Texas as a whole is 34th out of 50 states. But Houston is 34th out of the top 50 cities in the country.
Wow.
So we really, as a city, have to work harder to get more students, yes, to graduate from high school, but to get a college degree. Because that means money in the bank for their family. It creates value. You know, a 1% increase in the number of adults with a college degree results in $4.2 billion increase to revenues and GDP for Houston.
And then it just exponentially goes from there.
Exactly.
What do you see as our biggest challenge? I know the partnership is very involved and they're trying to do their part as a business community, but there still seems to be this disconnect between academia and the universities and colleges, the ISDs, the business community, the community at large, the religious community. We don't seem to be all on the same page. We talk about being all on the same page, but I don't see a lot of that connectivity of us jointly as a collaboration working together.
Well, Houston does have a K-16 partnership,
A wonderful one.
And we've also got through the Greater Houston Partnership an education committee. We are trying. I think because of the size of the city, 72 different districts in Greater Houston. It seems sometimes insurmountable, but it is something also on the state that the effort's being made. I return to the talent dividend. You know, the CEOs for Cities, which is sponsoring this, they had their conference in Houston, and they made the executive director of CEOs for Cities said Houston is doing right now the best job in the country in bringing business leaders, religious leaders, high school, college, and the mayor and city council together to say, we're going to do this.
We're going to
raise this. We're going to move the needle, and we're going to win this prize.
All right. I think it's a great competition among the other cities. I'm going to ask one other question, and I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to do some closing comments before we run out of time here in this segment. Because I think you're probably one of the best person to ask because of the institution that you lead and lead so well and the diversity of it. It seems to me that, let's just use HISD as an example for a moment. Roughly 204,000 kids this school year. I think 8% left Anglo students. You have a school district that would be called in the old days a school district made up of all minorities, which is not true. They're the new unempowered majority, as I call them, the new unempowered majority. If we do away with that minority status of thinking and all that goes with that, underachievers, less than, all those traditional historical things, we have basically these young people, the children of color that used to be the minorities, now the majority. That's our whole future. That's our future workforce. How we think about it seems to me how we reach them, how we teach them, how we educate them, how we train people to reach and teach them in a way that they can learn becomes a whole different equation. Because what are we talking about? If we don't do it, then that's our whole future.
You know, UHD looks like Houston, and you said that already, the demographics, we look very much like that. The entering freshman was over 60% Hispanic. Actually, as a campus as a whole, we're about 39% Hispanic and 29% African American. But we look like Houston, and Houston looks like the future of America. You know, this is a city of opportunity.
So it's not optional, in other words, to educate these children of color.
That's right. Exactly. This is the future of America. And if we're successful here in Houston in thinking of it as a laboratory, of working out the solutions, making sure our schools are the best in America, making sure the opportunity for success is the best in America, we're not only answering the problem for Houston, we're answering it for America.
So let's jump forward to the reality. We're having So well said what you just said. We're coming up to our next legislative session in another year, 2013. We could appeal to enlightened self-interest, to the common good about why we should fund public urban education the way it needs to be funded. We tried those two appeals this last time, went nowhere. It seems to me with the changing demographics, the changing face of the students, and the changing disconnect between the I and me and the we and us people, the disconnect in every way you want to define that, we have to figure out a way, maybe it's a higher moral discussion, maybe it's an ethical discussion, but we got to figure out a way in this next session to understand funding education, particularly urban public education, to the degree in which it needs to be funded, is not an option. It is not it's not something that we cannot not afford to do it, if I can use that phrase.
You know, if you think about boldness, and I think about Abraham Lincoln, remember right after the Civil War, just think about that time. The country was divided. The Treasury was in debt.
Yep.
They had to borrow from other countries. And yet, Lincoln said he did two amazingly courageous things right there. He said, we're going to build a transcontinental railroad to unite the East and the West. And they had to go to debt to do that. Mm-hmm. And the second is, we're going to build a university in every state in the country. The morale.
Right, right.
Okay, after World War II, massive turmoil, huge debt in the United States. What did they do? The GI Bill, to allow for people all over America, veterans coming back to get college degrees. You know, and you think about, during the Great Depression, all of the things that were built, including universities, we are at a turning point. Are we going to be bold? Are we going to be courageous? Are we going to say the future of America is ours and we're going to own it? We're going to build universities. We're going to open up opportunity. Or are we going to cut back? And I think to the legislation, let's be bold.
We're out of time. We could go with Dr. Flores, obviously, for a long, long time. I want to thank you. But I want to end on that point that you just ended. And we're going to take a break and we'll come back with the next segment, some more about education. But I'm going to end with what he said. Are we going to seize the opportunity, be bold and creative? Or are we going to seize the opportunity for greatness and uniqueness as the state of Texas and go against the great divide that is trying to separate us and move forward as a state, be the #1 state that we can be and the #1 city, or not? And I guess the way I would sum it up is to quote that great definition of what adulthood means. Adulthood means seizing the opportunity for creativity and initiative in the place of complaining about what cannot be done. We're at that point. We're at that crossroad. It is one that's really important for the future of this state, for the future of all our students, for all our children, to receive not just a good, but a quality urban public education. I want to thank Dr. Flores again. We're going to take a small pause and break, and we'll be right back.
Thank you.